What's going on, everyone? Ethan Ater here with Horizon Hobby, and in this video I'm going to be showing you the different methods in which you can update the Bind and Fly model templates folders on your Spektrum NX transmitters. With the recent firmware update, you can now utilize your Spektrum NX transmitter's Wi-Fi capabilities to update the Bind and Fly model templates folders on the Spektrum NX transmitters, which is really nice because as time goes on, new Bind and Fly model templates are going to be added, and also current ones might even be updated, so it's always a good idea to make sure those are up to date. Now, traditionally, you would have to connect your transmitter to your computer and access a shared folder in order to get those new Bind and Fly model templates, but now with the recent firmware update and using the Wi-Fi capabilities, it makes it a breeze. You don't have to use your computer. However, if you are a Spektrum NX 7E or NX 7E Plus user, the Spektrum NX 7E Plus does not have Wi-Fi capabilities. However, updating the Bind and Fly model templates are still a breeze, and I'm going to be showing you those methods as well. Now, keep in mind that the methods that I'm going to be using the NX 7E Plus for can also be used on all other Spektrum NX transmitters. So without further ado, let's get into the first method using the Wi-Fi capabilities. Before getting started on any of these methods, it's a good idea to delete any files that are in your downloads folder. Now, there's a couple ways in which you can do so. However, I'm going to just show you a quick and easy way in which I like to do so. So all you have to do is select the scroll wheel right here, scroll down to System Setup, and again, the RF will be disabled, so just make sure that you have no models powered up or connected to your transmitter before selecting Yes. Once you are in the System Setup menu, you can scroll all the way down again until you get to Transfer SD card. Once you are in the SD card menu here, you can go to the category and you can make sure that that is selected to File/Folder Management. And in the options, you can go to Delete File here. So once you select that, you will go down to your Downloads folder. And as you can see, I do not have any files here. Again, you can leave whatever's in here. However, it's just nice to have it cleaned up so you can easily find the files that we are going to be downloading and working with. Back at the main menu, we can now start the process in updating the Bind and Fly model templates using Wi-Fi. So first, we are going to select the scroll wheel to access the function list, and then we are going to scroll all the way down to System Setup. And then again, make sure that you have no models plugged in and connected to your Spektrum NX transmitter. And then once you have verified that, you can select Yes in order to access the system setup. Here, you can now go down to Wi-Fi utilities. So scrolling down towards the bottom, you will see Wi-Fi utilities. You can now go and connect to the network. If you haven't connected your transmitter to Wi-Fi, there's going to be a couple screen inputs where you are going to put in your Wi-Fi address and then also the password. But once that is on and saved on your transmitter, you should be able to connect to Wi-Fi very easily. So once you are connected, you can select Continue. Once you are logged in, you can check for updates. So we're going to select Check for Updates. Once you are in this Check for Updates menu, you can see that there are some folders here. So here is our eFlight Bind and Fly model templates folder, our current Blade folder, and then also our current other folder, which are Bind and Fly model templates that are not eFlight and Blade. These are going to pertain to all other aircraft that have Bind and Fly model templates. So for this video, we will just do the eFlight templates folder. So we will select that. Here you can see the progress bar moving and the barber pole rotating. It's going to take several minutes for the file to download, but just go ahead and wait here for the file to download. And once the download completes, the radio is going to verify it, as you can see by this verification progress bar here. Once the verification succeeds, it will then ask you if you want to install it or not. And as you can see here, the verification is complete and you can select Install. Before hitting that, make sure you read this note at the bottom which says, "Do not power the radio off during the update process. Please wait at least 5 minutes before assuming there is a problem." So once you have read that, you can select Install. And as you can see here, the progress bar is moving. You might see it change colors from orange to blue, and you might see the screen flash. Just know that this is completely normal and part of the update process. When the installation finishes, you will be on the main screen again. Here is where you can select the scroll wheel once again to access the function list and scroll all the way down until you see System Setup. Again, you will select Yes to disable the RF. Make sure that you have no models plugged in or connected to your Spektrum NX transmitter before selecting Yes. Once you are in the System Setup menu, you can scroll all the way down until you see Transfer SD card. Once you select that, you will be taken into the SD card menu. Now, first things first, you want to make sure that your SD card here is set to internal. You do not want that to be on external. We are going to be using the internal SD card for this step. So just make sure that that is selected to internal. Once you have verified that, you can scroll back up to the category here, press the scroll wheel to highlight it, and we can move the category over to Special Functions. Once we are on Special Functions, we can select the scroll wheel to lock that in and scroll down to our options. Again, we will press the scroll wheel to highlight the options, and we can scroll over until we see Untar, Unpack. Once we do that and press the scroll wheel, we will be taken to this menu where we can see our downloaded model template update file that we had just updated earlier. And then over here, this is going to be the number of files that we downloaded that day. So as you can see, this is the first file that we have downloaded on December 16th of 2025. So again, we will select that file right here. And as you can see here, we will be given the option to either extract or cancel. It's just going to remind you that this may overwrite internal SD card files. Again, we don't really have to worry about that. We are just going to scroll over and select extract. And as you can see here, the transmitter is now extracting all of these bind and fly model templates that were contained in that update which we had downloaded earlier. Now, how long it takes will depend on the number of files in the update package. Most typically take about 5 to 10 minutes, so just be patient here and let all of these model template files extract. Once this completes, you will be taken back to the SD card menu, and this is where you can press the back button twice in order to get back to the main menu. And now your Spektrum NX transmitter is updated and the new bind and fly model templates are available. And in order to access those, you will press the X and the back button at the same time. Here is where you can add a new bind and fly. Once you select that, you can go down to the eFlight folder because we have just downloaded all of the new eFlight model templates. And here is a list of all of those updated or new bind and fly model templates. And that is how you update the bind and fly model templates using your Spektrum NX transmitter's Wi-Fi utilities. Up next, I'm going to be showing you the method in which you use a USB cable to update your Spektrum NX transmitter using your computer. The items required for this process are a computer with internet access, a MySpectrum account, a registered NX transmitter on that account, and an appropriate USB cable to connect your transmitter to your computer. Once you are logged into your MySpectrum account and you are on the My Products page, you can scroll down, and on the right side of your screen next to your radio there are several options. One of these is Download Updates. You are going to want to click that link. On the list of updates available, there's going to be a list of model updates. These are grouped by aircraft brand. So you got Blade, eFlight, and Other. Select the file that suits your intent by clicking on the download button. Wait for the download to complete, and this will give you a file name, spmtx.sax, or some variant of that if multiple downloads have been made on your computer. You are going to make note of the correct file from your download folder as you will be working with it later. Power off the radio if it is on, and then power it back on. We're going to want to start with a clean slate. Connect the USB cable between the PC and the transmitter. The charge indicator on the transmitter will turn on. Using the scroller, you are going to want to navigate to get to the USB settings screen. Once you are on this menu, select Access Internal Storage. The first time you do this, it might take a minute or two, but eventually the PC will give you a USB drive of the transmitter. Drag and drop the file that you have just downloaded onto the radio. Here you can rename the file to something like blade.sax. It must not be spmtx.sax. With the transmitter disconnected from the computer and back at the main menu, we can select the scroll wheel to go to the function list, and here we will scroll all the way down so we can go to the system setup menu. Once we are in the system setup menu, we can scroll all the way down to the transfer SD card menu. Select the scroll wheel to enter this menu, and here we want to make sure that the SD card is set to internal, and for the category, we are going to scroll over, select the category. To highlight it, we'll click that scroll wheel and we will move over to special functions. Once we have special functions in the category, we will press the scroll wheel to lock that in. And then for the options, we will select the scroll wheel to highlight it and we will move it over to update firmware. Once we have that set, we will select the scroll wheel again. And here it will take us to this file list, and going down you can see that blade file that we put from our computer onto the transmitter. So now that that is highlighted, we can select the scroll wheel here, and as you can see, it is going to update the firmware with these new bind and fly model templates. Once the installation finishes, you will be on the main screen again. This step essentially created a file in the download folder on the transmitter's internal SD card. Now we need to activate that file, so I'm going to show you how to do that. Again, we are going to select the scroll wheel to go into the function list, and here we will scroll down to the system setup, and we can enter the system setup menu once again. Now that we're in the system setup menu once again, we can scroll all the way down to the transfer SD card menu. And now that we are back in the SD card menu, again, we want to make sure that the SD card is selected to the internal. So as you can see right here, it is selected to internal. Scrolling back up to the category here, we can highlight that and we will scroll over to special functions once again. And for the options, we want to scroll over to the untar unpack option. We can select the scroll wheel once again. And as you can see here, we have the file. Here's our date. Again, you want to make sure that your date and time is set up correctly in the transmitter. As you can see here, I don't have mine set up correctly, but really what we want to pay attention to is these last 4 digits. As you can see, the 0001, this is the first file that I've downloaded on this specific date. So really, as long as you know how many files you've downloaded, these last 4 digits are what you are going to want to pay attention to. So now that we've selected the right file, we can select the scroll wheel here. And as you can see here, we can scroll over to extract, press the scroll wheel once again. And once you click on that file, it will automatically begin the update process. And as you can see here, there is a file by file progress bar, and then there's a list of updated files that are beneath it. And how long this takes is going to depend on the number of files that are in the update package. Most of these take about 5 to 10 minutes. And once all of those files are extracted, you will be taken back to the SD card menu. Here you can press the back button twice to go back to the main menu, and now your NX transmitter is now updated and the new bind and fly models will be available the next time you select the add new bind and fly from the model select list. So to see that, you can press these 2 buttons at the same time. Scrolling down here to the add new bind and fly, you can select that, and here is our blade file. And as you can see here, those are all of the new and updated bind and fly model templates. The last method that I'm going to show you is how to update the bind and fly model templates using a micro SD card. The items required for this are a computer with internet access, a My Spektrum account, a registered NX transmitter on that account, and a micro SD card. Once you are logged into your My Spektrum account and you are on the My Products page, you can scroll down, and on the right side of your screen next to your radio there are several options. One of these is Download Updates. You are going to want to click that link. On the list of updates available, there's going to be a list of model updates. These are grouped by aircraft brand. So you got Blade, E-Flight, and Other. Select the file that suits your intent by clicking on the download button. Wait for the download to complete, and this will give you a file name, spmtx.sax, or some variant of that if multiple downloads have been made on your computer. You are going to make note of the correct file from your download folder as you will be working with it later. Insert the micro SD card into your computer. Drag and drop the file onto the card. Rename the file to something like othermodels.sax. It must not be spmtx.sax. Eject the micro SD card and remove it from your computer. Power on the transmitter and insert the micro SD card. Alright, so with the transmitter powered on and the micro SD card inserted into the transmitter, we can now go back to the setup menu. So what we're going to do is press the scroll wheel to go to the function list. We'll scroll down to the system setup. We'll select yes to confirm. Again, make sure that there are no aircraft that are plugged in and connected to your transmitter. So we'll select yes, the RF will be disabled and we will be in the system setup menu. Now, scrolling down to the transfer SD card, which is going to be towards the bottom here, we can select that. Once we are in the SD card menu here, we want to make sure that the SD card is set to external because we want to use that external SD card in which we downloaded that updated model templates file and put it on the SD card. So again, make sure that the SD card is set to external. We will go to the category. We can press the scroll wheel to highlight it, and we want to scroll to special functions. Once we have special functions highlighted in there, we can select the scroll wheel in order to then scroll down to the options here. And here is where we are going to select the scroll wheel and scroll over to update firmware. Once we press the scroll wheel here, we can see the other models file that we previously had put from our computer onto the SD card. So once we have highlighted over that file, we can press the scroll wheel here, and what it essentially is going to do is put an updated file onto our transmitter. And once the installation finishes, you will be on the main screen again. This step essentially created a file in the download folder on the transmitter's internal SD card, and now we need to activate that file. So what we're going to do is select the scroll wheel to go to the function list, and then we will scroll all the way down to get us back into the system setup menu. Once we are in the system setup menu, we can scroll back down to the transfer SD card menu and select that with the scroll wheel. Here in the SD card menu, we are going to now change the SD card from external to internal. So scrolling down here, we can select the scroll wheel to change the SD card to internal. Now in the SD card menu, we are accessing the internal SD card and not the external SD card. Here in the category, we can select this and scroll back to special functions again. So we will select that, scroll down to the options, highlight that, and then we are going to scroll over until we see untar unpack. Once we select that scroll wheel, here in this file menu, we can now scroll down to the most recent file that we've downloaded, and that's going to be indicated by the 0002. So the most recent file is going to be the highest number on these last set of digits. So now we can select this file here, and once we do that, it's going to make sure that we want to extract this file. So we can scroll over and select extract. And once you select extract, you can see that it's going to automatically begin the update process, and it will show a file by file progress bar here. And down here, you can see a list of updated files that are beneath it. How long it takes will depend on the number of files in the update package. Most of these take about 5 to 10 minutes. So just be patient here on this menu while all of these files are being extracted. And when this completes, it will return you to the SD card menu here. You can press the back button twice and it will take you back to the main menu. And now your Spektrum NX transmitter is updated and the new bind and fly models will be available. And all you have to do to see those is press these two buttons at the same time here, scroll all the way down to add new bind and fly. And since we did all other models besides Blade and E-Flight, past the Blade and eFlight folder will be all of these folders containing the Bind and Fly model files that you have just downloaded to your Spektrum NX transmitter. And just like that, you have all of your Bind and Fly model templates updated. All right, everyone, that's going to cover it on all of the methods in which you can update the Bind and Fly model templates on your Spektrum NX transmitters. As you can see, all of the ways in which you can do so are very straightforward, especially the one in which you can use the Wi-Fi capabilities. It's a very nice added feature, and I will definitely be using that a lot. So thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one, and happy flying.